I was sitting in a hospital room watching the numbers on a dialysis machine when the alarm started screaming. And every time it screamed, my brain translated it into one sentence: Your husband is dying. The nurse walked in, silenced the alarm, checked a line, and left. 30 seconds later, screaming again, over and over. Then the doctor pulled me into the hallway and said, "It's not looking very likely he's going to make it through the week, but we'll give it a try." And in that moment, I did what so many women over 50 do when life gets terrifying. I tried to protect myself by living ahead of my life. Pre-grieving doesn't protect you, it just steals today. And near the end, I'm going to give you one question I wish someone had asked me back then, because it would have changed how I spent the time I still had. I'm Lynn Weimar. I help ambitious women over 50 refuse to shrink physically, emotionally, or in who they are, just because life gets loud. And shrinking doesn't just happen in your body. It happens in your calendar, your goals, your visibility, your identity, and the stories you start believing about what's still possible. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the pattern that traps you in brace for impact mode, why grieving early doesn't make grieving easier, and a simple shift that helps you expand instead of shrink, even in hard seasons, especially if you're still working and still trying to reinvent yourself after 50. And if this is you, don't multitask through this. Just give me the next 8 minutes, because this is about getting your life back before it changes. Ross and I got married at the end of 2012. 1 week later, end-stage kidney failure. Dialysis 3 weeks later. And then we entered what I call the close call cycle. Bad news, my mind time travels to the end, I start grieving early, he stabilizes, repeat, for 9 years. And here's the problem. Pre-grief feels like strength, but it's actually your brain trying to control the uncontrollable. And because I was still functioning, still working, still showing up, people assumed I was handling it. But inside, I was living half a step away from my own life. And it showed up in small ways I didn't even notice at first. I stopped looking forward to things. I stopped planning anything that required hope. I pulled back from joy, like joy was irresponsible. Because part of me believed, if I enjoy this, I'll pay for it later. So I tried to pay early. One hospitalization captured it perfectly. Ross was there to recover from wound surgery, but he was losing dialysis access. And no dialysis means one thing. So when that alarm screamed, I didn't hear technical issue, I heard deadline. The nurse silenced it, checked a line, left, screamed again and again. Every time it went off, my brain said, start preparing, start grieving, start pulling back. Then the doctor said he probably wouldn't make it through the week. I went back into the room, sat in that awful vinyl chair, and started rehearsing my life without him, while he was still alive. And here's the twist. 5 days later, Ross stabilized. So I went home relieved and also drained, because I had just lived a death that didn't happen. Ross died on January 4th, 2022. We had a hospital bed set up in our living room, and I sat beside him as he took his last breath. And in that moment, I learned something brutally clear. All the grieving I'd done in advance, it didn't make it easier. It didn't make the grief smaller. It didn't make me ready. Because grief isn't the idea of losing someone. Grief is the reality of them being gone. And you can't grieve an absence until the absence is real. Before I show you the shift that gave me my life back inside that waiting season, I made something for you. If life has been trying to shrink you, especially after 50, grab my free 3-day expansion quick start. It's a simple framework plus a 7-day action plan to help you stop shrinking and start expanding again. And the link is below. Here's what I wish someone had told me. Pre-grieving feels like preparation, but it's actually self-protection through shrinking. You're trying to prepay the pain, but grief doesn't work like a payment plan. You can acknowledge what might be coming. You can feel fear. You can feel sadness. You can mourn what's changing, but you cannot complete grief early because the absence isn't real yet. So pre-grief doesn't protect you. It steals your capacity to be present. And presence is where your life is happening, including the life you're trying to rebuild after 50. So here's the shift I wish I'd practiced for 9 years. I call it presence is expansion, because when life tries to shrink you into fear, the most rebellious thing you can do is stay present and stay yourself. When your mind jumps to after, label it. Say, I'm time traveling. That one phrase stops the spiral. Then ask, what is true in this moment? Not what might happen, not what you're bracing for, what's true right now. Right now, just for 5 seconds, do it. What is true in this moment? And then choose one act of presence that is not about fixing, managing, or preparing. Hold their hand, watch something together, share a memory, ask a real question. One moment that says, I refuse to miss you while you're still here. And this is where expansion after 50 becomes practical. Because when your nervous system is fried, your world gets small. So you rebuild capacity, physically and emotionally, so you can stay present without collapsing. That can start tiny. One walk you keep, one strength session, one boundary, one promise to your body you actually keep. Not because you're trying to be impressive, because midlife reinvention requires energy, and shrinking drains that energy. And here's the question I promised, the one I wish someone had asked me while I was sitting in hospital rooms trying to prepare. Are you grieving the time you have, or are you present for the time you have? Because while Ross was alive, even during those close calls, I still had him. We still had moments, and I spent too many of those moments rehearsing the end instead of living the middle. For 9 years, I tried to grieve in advance. And when Ross actually died, it hurt just as much as if I'd never prepared at all. So if you're in a hard season right now, especially if you're working and trying to reinvent yourself after 50, here's your permission. Stop rehearsing the end. Start being present for what's still here. And if life has been trying to shrink you, especially after 50, grab my free 3-day expansion quick start. It's a simple framework plus a 7-day action plan to help you stop shrinking and start expanding again. And the link is below. And comment below, just fill in the blank. One thing I'll stop postponing. I'm Lynn Weimar. Ordinary days build extraordinary lives when you refuse to shrink. See you next time.